Yes, we are live, everyone. Welcome to Morning Journal Session 236. We are glad that you are here on this beautiful Monday morning. We do Morning Journal Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. You can get the entire 2-hour experience if you join us in the VIP. To find out how to get to the VIP, you can just check the link in your description or in the show notes for this episode. We'd be glad to have you here. You can join the conversation, an inner circle of really cool folks, make some good friends, maybe, and it's a great way to start your day, in my humble opinion. And I would love to invite you. So just check the link in the description, join us in the VIP, and I'd be super glad to have you. Now, if you're listening back to the playback on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and if this is your first time here listening, you just lost this. This is going to be, it's going to be some live interaction. I'm going to be talking to people. It's a live chat that is going on in the background, and I'll be welcoming people and addressing people by name. So hopefully it'll be intriguing enough to you to wonder who some of these folks are, and you can just kind of do your thing, clean up a little bit, wash some dishes, I don't know, whatever you need to do, and listen in on this live experience. And if you enjoy it, leave us a like or leave us a review or rating, 5 stars. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing. Review so other people can find us here. So what we do here is we respond to some prompts to get us thinking a little bit, thinking about ourselves, our lives, our relationships, important things, starting the day on that foot, whether it's the right or the left, getting off to a good start, hopefully. And the first prompt that we considering today is, what have you received? What have you received? I think acknowledgement of receipt is sort of an acknowledgement of abundance, and also a precursor to gratitude. Sometimes we're just not aware of what we have, and sometimes we don't appreciate what we have. We don't notice what we have. There's a lot of material at our disposal to create so many things. We don't start with zero. So what have you received? That is the question to begin the conversation. And J-Man, who's going off to do that workout, says, I've just received encouragement from all the wonderful people I've met on the app for projects I work on and things I do. So the receipt of encouragement and support is extremely valuable. Encouragement and support. So Miss has received joy, joy, joy. Joyous, joyfully, joyful joy. Whole lot of joy. So being on the receiving end of a bunch of joy has to be a wonderful thing. Joy is an extremely clean and powerful fuel for anything that you want to invest your energy into. Coming from a place of joy is a game changer. Joy is a game changer. Tim says, I have received love. I have received love. I'm seeing a pattern here, right? Some of the things that we receive, these are not necessarily material things, right? These are kind of gifts of the heart and soul. And those are the things I think that at the end of the day we value those. Those are the things that we value most. So, Miss, I have received community with names and hearts and spoons the Spoon Fam, receiving a sense of community, a sense of belonging to a community and connection. There's a lot of good stuff inside of a community when you're in the right one, you know? I think our community shapes us in so many ways, and we shape the community. It's a really powerful concept to be in fellowship with other people and in a constant state of exchange of energy and ideas and love and joy and laughter, all the different things that you can kind of build as resources amongst each other. It's a beautiful thing. So Bittersweet says, I have received lots of friendships. Friendship is a beautiful gift. So a giddy Rebecca is, I don't know why a giddy Rebecca wanted to put a smirk beside community. Is there an angle to this that I'm not considering that you want to add to the conversation? Maybe there's an angle of community that I didn't have in mind. It said, if you get it, you get it. If you know, you know. Goddess of Words is back. Welcome back, Goddess of Words. Rebecca says, love, hella love, I'm talking buku love, is what I have received. Lowly Needles is in the house, folks. Good morning, Kaloli. Thank you for joining us. What have you received? Buku. Buku. I received a lot of love. I feel you. So, Noble Ancient says, I have received a commission from Alberto for a game, kindness from coworkers at work, friendship here on Spoon, and a sincere honesty from Lexus, and positivity from G. I'm sorry if I triggered anybody's devices by saying the word Alexa. I hope y'all stuff didn't go off. So Noble has received a lot, noticing gifts coming from all angles, and that's a beautiful thing. Goddess's Words, I said it twice, so if I didn't get it the first time, maybe I got it the second time. Enough Said Radio is in the house, folks. Good morning. Thank you for being here. All right. Enough Said Radio is back again. Can't get it right. Okay. So noticing what you receive is a great place to begin. Like noticing the things that you receive, the understanding that there is abundance available to you and that you have access to it when you notice it. A great step from there is to appreciate it. So, the word appreciation has a few different meanings. One has to do with gratitude, right? You appreciate something that you've received. And another word for appreciation is to increasing. Like if you have an asset and it becomes more valuable, it's appreciating, it's growing. And I think the nature of abundance is through appreciation, things, their value grows. Their value grows, your appreciation. Goddess of Words says, I've received blessings through arduous. I've received blessings, though arduous at times, many do not have, and I remind myself of that every time I begin to take them for granted. I'm going to reread that. Goddess of Words, I need Goddess of Words to bless me with the ability to speak those words. But blessings, though arduous at times. Many do not have, and I am. And I remind myself of that every time I begin to take them for granted. Blessings are arduous. Sometimes you have to be grateful for the difficult things. You know, sometimes blessings come dressed up in funny looking clothes. The blessing comes looking like a problem to solve or work to do. Miss Hippie has circulated a little bit of coffee. Circulated a little bit of coffee and donuts and bagels around the space. Everybody grab something if you need it. The radio's Tree says, I've received 2 new classes for the last part of the semester and I'm ready. 2 new classes. I'm gonna get her done. Get it done. Noble, thank you so much. Coffee, the donuts. I appreciate that. Make sure everybody gets plenty. Tree's getting ready to get down the home stretch of this semester. It's like, Tree, we've been through your whole year. We've been through the whole school year together, haven't we? You almost made it here. Yeah, I appreciate you, Noble, for sure. So, if we're ready to go to the next prompt, I'd love to get into that conversation. Just drop me a heart in the chat and we can go for it. So we can acknowledge abundance around us. So now let's talk about the way that we have kind of expressed that abundance back into the world through our generosity. So what would you say is your most generous act? What has been your most generous act? Let me open up the request box as you think about that. Your most generous act. So there is a distinction. Generosity comes out of abundance, right? So what would you say has been the most generous thing that you've done? Whether it's a way that you've given of yourself and you saw a really positive impact from a contribution that you made to someone, a way that you poured into someone else's life or to a community, because we were talking about community. A lot of the stuff that you notice that you have received is in relation to the people in your life and the communities that you're connected to. So what would you say has been your most generous act? It's like, I don't know, y'all, I'm pretty stingy. I know y'all ain't stingy. I know how generous you are. I've seen it. But I guess sometimes the word most can trip you up because it's forcing you to think kind of globally. Tim says, the most generous thing I've done is telling myself to chill on certain things that don't benefit me. You got to tell yourself no sometimes. So it was an act of kindness to yourself. Like, thank you. Yeah. Like, you're welcome, self. word generous, it comes from kind of the Latin of it is kind of connected to being noble, right? Coming from a noble place or noble people. Being magnanimous. That is where the root of the word is for generosity. God, it says, I'm conflicted with straight up describing a generous act. We'll do it anonymously. If you don't feel comfortable, you feel like you boasting, drop it on the low key. And we'll know it's you since you are. Since I'm telling you to do it, we're going to know anything that's anonymous. Noble says, my love language is acts of service. My generous act has been giving games to friends, allow them to enjoy what I make. I know I'm sacrificing sales and trade, but I am me. Yeah, I'm me. Mississippi says, one story comes to mind. One day I saw a couple of homeless people with dogs. I felt so bad. I bought dog food and all kinds of things so they could survive. So seeing people, seeing beings in need and intervening. Rebecca says, I pour love and speak life into those that are important to me and sometimes to random people. I just want people to feel good about themselves. So pouring love into people is a generous act. And for Rebecca, it seems to be a generous practice. It's not a one-off thing. It's just kind of the way that you operate. So that's awesome. So for Miss, generous act is love, and I choose it daily. I choose to love myself and others. Love is generous and vulnerable and worthwhile. Rebecca says, always lead with love. Always lead with love. So I think that this gives us an indication of people, the people in the room. We can kind of see where your heart is. I think where your heart is where your generosity naturally flows. So Tree says, my most generous act was to let my husband marry me. It's his dream girl. Oh man, here, yeah. He's like, I guess. Oh man, I love that. Lucky guy. Lucky guy. So the generous act for J-Man is trying to show kindness to everyone, even if you don't deserve it. Even people who don't deserve it, I should love, and that is a generous act. I think one of the big things is to stay in a place when you are showing love. Like generosity in a way is because it's coming out of abundance. When you give out of that abundance, it is not something that depletes you, right? You're giving out of an abundance and it does not decrease you. So, Goddess of Words says, I think my most generous act is probably something toxic to myself, giving more chances than I should have. But in the ways the prompt means it, probably fill a friend's fridge with groceries when he couldn't. So, generous with chances. Maybe overly generous with chances. I guess it only becomes overly generous. It becomes, I think it ceases to become generous when it doesn't come from abundance, and it becomes something else at that point. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. I think generosity extends to the level of abundance that you're giving from. And then once you're no longer giving from abundance, then it becomes something else. And we'll talk about what that is a little bit later. All right, if we're ready to go to the next prompt, go ahead and drop me a heart in the chat and we can get into that. All right, Squasha is here. Welcome in. And thank you for being here. Let's get into this. So we were talking about how generosity comes from a place of abundance, and abundance is a place of more than enough. And let's pinpoint something that you have more than enough of. So in some healthiest thing about generosity, as Mo has joined us and back to the grind, I think the necessity of giving when you have more than enough, you need to make space. When you have more than enough, a lot of times that extra starts to stagnate and break you from the things that you need, because you got all this extra stuff, right? So let us know, what is something that you have more than enough of that might be a new opportunity for a new space for generosity. And I think, that generosity opens the door for more receipt. We acknowledge what we received, and generosity opens the door for receiving, but what you receive doesn't necessarily come from the place that you gave. It emerges in the space that you create for it. So understanding that we are all connected in a way, and for us to fully appreciate or to be able to fully have what we need, we rely on each other. The gifts that we have can cover the spaces of need for others. We can be at our best when we are connected in that way. So what is it that you have more than enough of that might be an opportunity for you to kind of share? So Miss says, joy, 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 LOL. I got more than enough joy, so I can, in abundance. Joy in abundance. Noble Ancient says, I have more than enough positive energy to share. I'm willing to share positivity with others. My positive energy is actually infectious to match. So watch out. Noble might infect you. Noble is contagious. Hey, Noble, thank you so much for the spoons. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So there are lots of things that are infectious that are very welcome. I think sometimes laughter is infectious. If you're in a space where there's just laughter in the room, maybe you don't even know the origin of the laughter, but just being in that space can lift your spirits. So we appreciate infectious positive energy. J-Man says, I have more than enough love and gratitude. Ms. Hippie has more than enough energy and awesomeness. I got plenty. I got plenty. Yeah, give from the space that you, give from your spaces of abundance. You know you have more than enough, and sometimes we make a mistake and we give out of, we're trying to pour from an empty cup, right? We're trying to pour from a place that we don't have anything. Yeah, sprinkle the awesome everywhere. So Rebecca says, I got more than enough hoes. More than enough hoes, Rebecca, I hear you. Okay. How about that? That's interesting. In different area codes, right? All right. There we go. Let's go ahead and get ready to go to the next prompt. Go ahead and drop me a heart in the chat just so I can be sure that I don't leave anyone behind. Drop me some hearts in the chat so I know we are on the same page. So Goddess has snacks. I got too many snacks. Snacks, huh? Over there, are these homemade snacks? Yes, brownies, Cheez-Its, and fruit leather. You made some fruit leather from scratch? You made some Cheez-Its from scratch too? Or is it just the fruit leather? You make Cheez-Its? But can you really call it a Cheez-It if you made it? You can call it a cheese cracker, but maybe not a Cheez-It. Because I think they own that. All right. It was like, what is that? Just say that then. Nobody knows what to believe. Yeah. Okay, so what has been your greatest size? What has been your greatest sacrifice? That the distinction between generosity and sacrifice is sacrifice is sort of an act of belief. It's not necessarily coming from a place of abundance, but it's an act of faith or belief that you can give this thing, and somewhere down the line there's something coming in return that is what makes it worthwhile. It's you're giving something or giving something up with an expectation that it will be worth it. So whether that thing is something you have in abundance, and I guess by definition, if it's a sacrifice, it's something that you're not giving out of abundance. Like there's going to be some sort of cost to you. You're going to incur some sort of cost or shoulder some sort of risk by giving this, because it's not like you just got it laying around and you won't miss it. I think the nature of a sacrifice is that you're giving up something that you are going to miss, but you're doing it with the expectation that it will be worth it somehow. You're making a conscious decision to forego something for some future thing that's not guaranteed, right? There is always the chance that it won't work out. So it can be a little scary, but all of those elements are kind of what are necessary to consider something to be truly a sacrifice. So what has been your greatest sacrifice? So J-Man says, I have sacrificed my happiness and mental health for years, but I won't do that anymore. So when you say you were sacrificing your mental health and happiness, what were you attempting to exchange that for? What were you hoping would come as a result of foregoing those things? What were you trying to get in return? Because I think that's always, sacrifice is always a sort of two-sided equation, whereas generosity can be an open-ended gift without expectation of anything in return. A sacrifice, it has to kind of acknowledge both sides of the exchange. So we're talking about sacrifice. So God says my greatest sacrifices as a parent, my whole life and purpose for living. So your parent, as your role as a parent is the center of your purpose of living. And, I think there's a voluntary nature to sacrifice as well. It has to be something that you're choosing to count as a sacrifice. If you don't have a choice, then you're not giving anything up. You're having something taken from you. So one element of sacrifice is also an element of choice. Guardian has joined us, and so has Scope. So if anybody needs to see clear and far to land on target, or somebody needs to deal with unpleasant situation going on in your mouth, Scope is in the chat. So Rebecca says, once upon a time I would sacrifice my peace for other people, but we ain't done that no more. Ew. So Rebecca, again, you sacrificed your peace, and what were you hoping for in exchange? Sometimes we sacrifice in hopes for just simple reciprocity. We give up a thing in hopes that we can get that same thing in return from the person that we sacrificed it to. Sometimes we let go of what we expect to receive in return. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Rebecca says, basically. So someone says, my biggest sacrifice has been being married. Okay, being married has been a big sacrifice. So I guess there are some things that you gave up by being married. And what did you hope to receive in return from being married? And I'm wondering, have it? Sometimes sacrifices are worthwhile. Like, you are glad that you are happy with the way things have occurred. It was a worthwhile sacrifice. Rebecca was sacrificing peace to keep the peace. So I'll just take on the disturbance so that other people don't have to bear it. So it's like a form of martyrdom inside of a relationship, taking on things to spare the other person. So Quasha says that my greatest sacrifice has been putting money into acting and modeling for my daughter, but being scammed. Like, oh no. Oh no. So you have a little bit of misplaced trust. There are a lot of people who prey on folks who are trying to create a great experience for their family, for their kids, and you get a bill of goods handed to you. I'm sorry that happened. A lot of people know how much we care about our kids, we care about our family, so they'll use that against us. So, and I think that at the end of the day, you know, sometimes we can recognize that we misplaced our trust, but it doesn't dissuade us from the thing that we want. We just have to find a better way or a different way to get it. Noble Ancient says that my greatest sacrifice has been time for the longest, but now trying to regain that time and trade it for an opportunity to one day reach my ultimate goal. So you've had to sacrifice your time in ways that you haven't been able to, well, you've been having to use your time in a way that you would not necessarily prefer. To trade your time. Ashoko Tano, welcome in. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're talking about what has been our sacrifice, our greatest sacrifice. What have you took a risk on for the hope of something greater in return? Miss says, I used to sacrifice my safety to be around people that didn't give a crap about me. I wanted companion, but that's what having a pet is for. Now I seek healing and healthy connections and increase. So sacrificing safety with the hopes of gaining companionship. Yeah. That's not a worthwhile exchange. A lot of times there are places where we are entering with a sort of an attitude of sacrifice when it's more appropriate to come from a place of generosity. There's some places that we can move where we can just, it's okay to give freely, but don't expect anything in return from those places. So, Ashoko Tano says, I sacrifice my use of drugs to better myself. Yeah. That's awesome. Letting some of that, being able to move away from that and find a healthier way to be. Congratulations on that journey. However far along you are on it, it won't be easy all the time, but I think it'll be worth it. So we're rooting for you. So Scope says, I sacrificed my freedom for a girl that didn't care. Sacrificing freedom from someone who didn't care. I think that is one of the difficult things to kind of frown. Like in relationships, are you coming to your critical and most important relationships from a space of abundance and giving, or from a place of sacrifice and need? Of course we have things that we need, right? And of course we meet needs in connection with each other. But when you are in that space of giving, are you attached to something in return that may not be possible in the context that you're giving, right? It can be really tough to straddle that line of giving freely and expecting something. Miss says, this live is causing me to mourn connection that I lost by not recognizing others' generosity. I think that awareness is key. Sometimes we wake up within ourselves and see our past in a different way. So scoping us a little context, I did 2 years in prison for someone's charge. So you took the bid for somebody and they were like, thanks, but no thanks. Wow. So, Tree says, I sacrificed my health by drinking and smoking every day to feel accepted when I was younger, and learned the hard way. Sacrificing health for acceptance. Sacrificing health for acceptance. So I think as a general rule, there are always going to be times and places where sacrifice is necessary. We're going to have to give some things up. Believe that we need to know why, and we need to be in a place of understanding that there is a risk. So the risk that you won't get what you bargain for in any sacrifice. So the ways that we approach these things, we have to make sure that it's worth it, right? And make sure there isn't a different way to approach meeting those needs other than trying to exchange something of value that you can't afford. So the mark of maturity, I believe, is being wise in the ways that we sacrifice and always making exchanges that cause increase rather than decrease appointment and all those things. That is sort of the hallmark of our maturity, is in selecting the sacrifice, choosing our challenges wisely. So here we go. If we're ready to go into the next prompt, go ahead and drop a heart in the chat and we can get into that. So yeah, I think this next prompt is going to shine a light on sacrifice is valuable and where it can cause increase. So I'm going to reset the request box and change the background real quick so we can get into this. And it's a simple question: who do you serve? Who do you seek to serve? I know that we talked about abundance in the beginning, and our greatest contribution comes from the abundance that we have within us. So the full cup that we can pour from is the source of our greatest service, because we can give without attachment. We can give freely, and we can serve at the highest level when we're coming from that place. But we have to get to that place, right? We have to fill our cup in any number of ways, by the way that we take care of ourselves, through the relationships that we are engaged in. Hopefully those things help to fill our cup. But at the end of the day, I think most of us would agree that we can't fully reach our potential only serving ourselves, only thinking about ourselves. I think one of the things about community, and I heard this from a therapist, the purpose of the community is to call forward your gifts, to bring the best out of you. It's hard to access the depths and the extent of your possibility without a venue and without a connection with other people. So finding a venue to serve is a great way to grow. So who do you seek to serve? The Don is here. Ezekiel is here. I appreciate y'all for joining Morning Journal session number 236. We're talking about who we seek to serve, that community, those connections, those people, those causes, that mission, whatever it is that you are creating. Definitely there's some things that you are doing for your own personal growth to fill your cup, but you have to have a space, a venue to give, to open up, to continue opening up the cycle to receive. We need a flow. Things need to flow, and they become toxic. So service is a part of the way that you keep the flow of all the good things that you require to be at your best. To keep that flow going is through service and giving. So who do you seek to serve? So J-Man says, I seek to serve God, the people who care about me, and myself. Serving God, the people who care about me, and myself. So one of the key parts of service is being able to attain what the needs are that are to be. Service, if it is not self-serving, if it is not if you're not doing it in service of ego, then being able to ascertain the needs that need to be addressed is a critical part of serving. Because you're not doing anybody any favors by pouring things into them that they don't need or require. If they don't have space to receive it, your giving is in vain. Your giving becomes a burden when you give things that people don't have the space to receive. So being able to ascertain the needs is an important part of serving. So Angel does, Daddy, Gaz, welcome in. Thank you so much for being here. Who do you seek to serve is the question. Noble Ancient says, I seek to serve the day I live in, the adventure and my love language play in this response. Okay. I seek to serve the day I live in. The adventure and my love language play in this response. Each encounter and treasure chest I find, the more I learn and serve the adventure. Goddess of Words and Tim, thank you so much for the like. So Miss says, I want to serve my community, plus I am a part of the community. Yeah, I am served by making my community stronger. I benefit. I get better when we get better. It's like, go us. So Goddess of Words says, myself, and by doing so, I pave the way to also serve those that are close to me, others. So there is a radiating circle of service, filling your cup, sharing it with those close to you, and multiplying that service out and beyond those you know. So these are all, you are demonstrating an understanding of the value of this with these responses, and I really appreciate that. I think that you can probably shine the light even more vividly when you look at very specific things that you are doing and ways that you are occupying your time. Maybe there are specific actions that you are taking, and it's a question as a filter for everything that you do. Like whenever you make a decision or you choose a course of action, you can ask yourself the question, well, who do I seek to serve with this? Who is this for? And is the person this is for someone who is valuable to me in the sense that they are worth a sacrifice in this specific case, right? Whose needs are being met by this? And is this the best person? Are they in a position to receive what it is that I'm offering in service to them? And it's not even necessarily a statement of value, so to speak. It's a statement of their capacity to receive. It's no knock on them, but they may not have the space to hold what you're trying to give, and then it's a waste, right? So who is this for is a great question. So Daddy says, I seek to serve myself simply because I already serve everybody else, and I so deeply wish I could help myself too. So Daddy wasn't here for the conversation about sacrifice, but for sure, that empty cup thing, right? You can't, what are you giving? What are you able to give if you yourself are empty? All right. So I'm at a place now, or we're at a place now in the session where we can start doing a recap and taking a look at all of the prompts and kind of tying things together. So I'm going to put up the sort of summary background so you can see all the prompts that we've talked about today. We started talking about what we have received, just kind of taking an inventory of the gifts that we have received from all sorts of places. Just they're gifts that we receive just by accidents of birth. You know, you were born in a place, in a family, in a situation that puts you in position to do things that you wouldn't be able to do had any of those not been true for you. So there's those base level things that you're born with. There's certain gifts and abilities or talents that you have been able to use. The things that are easy for you that might be difficult for other people. So you can count that as a gift. And then we have all these shared gifts that come, in the community. The time that we live in gives us a lot of things that people from different times in history would marvel at. Like the very fact that we can have this conversation in this way is a really powerful gift. It's a unique thing that we take for granted. So thinking about what we have received and then turning that around and looking at, we have been generous, where we have taken from the abundance that we have received and returned that out freely and liberally back into the world and into other people and other relationships. We talked about what we received and where we've been generous. And then we look close at, okay, so what do I have more than enough of? Is there a space for me to share in ways that I haven't shared? Because it's great to have more than enough. It's great to sort of have that margin. And it's also important to know that you make space for the continuous flow when you give out of your abundance. So knowing what you are abundant in gives you a clue as to where you can make more space to receive. We talked about the sacrifices, those difficult choices sometimes to expend energy, to let things go, to put things out into the world where there are no guarantees, but there is an expectation that it will be worth it. And I think our wisdom lies to make wiser choices that lead to increase, to not shy away from the sacrifices that are required that will bring increase, and to steer clear of those bad bargains that will make our lives smaller and weaker. And finally, we're talking about who we are seeking to serve, understanding that everything isn't for everyone. Not everyone has the capacity to receive what it is that you have to give. It's not a comment on their value. It's a comment on their capacity and their willingness and their openness. So understanding who is for is a great way to calibrate the sacrifices that may come up for you. If you know who is for and you know what the need is, then making that exchange and pouring from your abundance into that space is wise. So Steve is here from the Hold Up TV. Welcome in, Steve, King of Depression. Thank you for joining us. We're coming down the home stretch of today's session, and I appreciate everyone for sharing where your heart is today. Because when we're talking about generosity, when we're talking about sacrifice, the ways that we receive and give, and where that comes from, it reveals to yourself as you reflect on it, and it reveals to us as we listen where your heart is. And I'm grateful that so many of you have your heart in a beautiful place. So with that, I want to take a second to thank everyone who's been watching and listening over on YouTube and Facebook and all the places that you can watch the video version of the Morning Journal. I'm glad that you took some time to hang out today, and I hope that you've enjoyed the conversation. If you listen to the playback, you will find an opportunity to join us live for the entire 2-hour session. We're here for about 2 hours every morning. You only get a small portion. Well, you get a portion of it. You miss some of the bonus content. And if you don't want that to happen next time, and I don't want that to happen to you, I invite you to, join us in the VIP. You can find the links in the description. And if you enjoyed it, leave us a rating and review. Also, go ahead and subscribe to the Morning Journal newsletter so that you can get prompts and commentary in your inbox to stay connected with us, because I do want to stay connected with you. So with that, we're going to say so long for now to everyone watching and listening, and we're going to hang out for a few minutes with the crew in the VIP. I'm glad that you took some time with me, and we'll see you in the morning.